All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. IBT Exco here with you. We appreciate everyone joining Pilot Chat. I don't think we got one last month. We're trying to get one at least hopefully every other month to try to get you updated on what's going on, answer any questions that you might have. I'm Henry Simpkins, Michael Hornbeck, Sean Lenny, Joel Eisenfeld, and Wayne Ayers here with you. Again, appreciate you joining us. If you are not a union member, this is an official Union Hall meeting, so we invite you to excuse yourself. This is obviously being recorded for those that can't be here at the time. A couple updates for you today. I'm going to cover arbitrations real quick before I hand it off to somebody else. But arbitrations, we just had the fake bidders arbitration. If you're not familiar with that, I'll just cover that real quick. We received reports that first officers were being withheld pairing lines before the awards were going out, and they were given to others like check airmen. So check airmen in another base, let's just say Boise, were being given first officer lines in Spokane or Seattle. So bases they weren't even in, and the seat they weren't qualified for training purposes. We felt that was against CBA violations. Open time is open time. That you don't get to go through and pick out what you want first. Those should have been awarded to first officers and then purchased off of them per the CBA. So I went to arbitration a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago at this point. We just heard back from the arbitrator a couple of days ago, and it sounds like an official decision should be coming out hopefully within the next month or two, which would be super quick. But Joel and I think we're on the email. I don't know if anybody else was, but from the sounds of it, hopefully, and from the arbitration itself, it went fairly well for the IBT. And the arbitrator at one point was openly laughing at the company's argument about what open time actually is. So the non-verbals, verbals from the arbitrator, and his email. I don't want to give any false hope, but it sounds pretty positive for open time and pairings in the future. We do have an arbitration next week scheduled. This is for what we call cowboy trip trades. This is for people, how do I say this? Making deals with crew scheduling outside the CBA and affecting other people. So anytime you have it's like a domino effect, right? So you have an awarded trip, you go in, you make a deal with crew scheduling based on your friendship or otherwise with somebody that's in crew scheduling, and then somebody that gets assigned that pilot's trip that who shouldn't be working. Anyway, there was a domino effect that we caught a while ago. And we're just trying to, we're not opposed to pilots making more money. We're just trying to make it sure it's equitable and fair for everyone, not just if you have a friend that's in crew scheduling or not. So that's headed to arbitration next week. And we've got a few more lined out for the rest of 2025, which includes long-term disability premiums. We've got healthcare premiums lined up. And then we've got, while we got the deadhead seating issue fixed as far as a settlement, not necessarily the automation or anything yet, but if you are put in the wrong seat for deadheads, you at least get the $100. We're going back to arbitration because we feel the CSAs should not be asking pilots to take the jump seat because there are paid passengers that are trying to get on. We're all about customer service, that's fine, but that's not what the contract says. That's not what the settlement says. If they ask you, we still feel it's a violation. If they ask you and you take the jump seat, in fact, we just had one today. The argument is that if the CSA asks you to take the jump seat on a deadhead and you take it, the company's like, dude, you accepted it. So you get whatever comes with it. So beware of that. If you are scheduled a deadhead and they ask you, please file a grievance. And please do not take the jump seat. That is meant there for commuters that are trying to get to and from work, whether they're on this airline or not. So we have a full list of arbitrations that are set to go throughout 2025. And we already went through the list today of things that we're scheduling out for 2026. So the lineup is full, but all things that we feel are affecting the entire pilot group as a whole and worth what we feel the time, resources, energy to go all the way to arbitration and get this fixed. So with that, I'm done for the moment. I'm going to turn it over to Joel, cover some hotel issues.
All right, we have a bit to cover here. Hopefully all of you saw the email regarding the Ontario Hotel, the Best Western Heritage. There was also a text just as a reminder that went out. If anyone is not getting those, please just in the comments there, let us know so we can get that squared away and make sure you get important information. The Ontario Hotel, we had not been staying in for quite some time, so this issue kind of just faded into the back and wasn't being paid attention to because we had no overnights there. Recently, this month, we started having overnights again, and this hotel has just been a constant problem anytime we have crews there. The issues range from cleanliness, maintenance. People that work there have been rude and combative towards our crew members. Transportation's been unreliable, and recently it's been noted that there are fire code concerns with that hotel. Our ask of all of you is to not put up with these sorts of issues. There's no need for you to. All you need to do is call crew scheduling and use the magic word, which is I don't feel safe here, and you will be reaccommodated. And this is not just the union telling you this. In conversations with the company, Carlos Sendejas, the VP of Flight Operations, said that is what he expects our crews to do. If a situation makes you feel unsafe, he has instructed you all to call scheduling and get yourself a different hotel. So that comes from the company as well as the union. Um, on that note, if you are staying in any hotel that has issues, please do report those on the API app on your iPad. Make sure they're detailed, and if you have more than one issue, please submit multiple separate reports. And I know that's tedious. The reason for this is the metrics that the company looks at to determine if a hotel is an actual problem or just an outlier is the number of reports that they're getting with various issues. So the more reports we can generate, the more ammunition we have to actually rectify these problems. Um, I think that's all I have on hotels. Moving on to negotiations. We met last month with the company and are continuing to work on sections 16, which is vacancies, and 17, which is displacement. Progress is being made, but slowly. We have come to a point in these sections where we are pushed up against some economic issues with the company is not ready to deal, particularly in the climate we're in. Also, we found issues in these sections where we are trying to do something that has already been industry standard elsewhere for the last 5 and even 10 years in some cases, as we pull and look through other contracts. And the company is unwilling to do those things. That's not that we're asking for something new or expensive. It's simply something that is completely standard elsewhere. It has been for quite some time, and they just don't want to do it. That isn't acceptable. It's slowing down the process unnecessarily, and we will not settle for anything less than standard. So we'll continue to push, and we'll move on to the next section if need be. We have plenty of work to do moving forward in the contract with other sections if we can't reach agreement on these. Um, we will be meeting with the company end of this month for the next negotiating session. And then again in June, July, and August are off months just with the high flying demand. And then we'll be back again with them in September and onwards for negotiations. From there, we just wanted to cover a bit of somewhat recent history with everyone. A lot of our pilots that are on the seniority list have only been here 2 to 3 years. So things that people like myself who have been around 10 plus years, and especially people who have been around 20 or 30 years, think of as common knowledge may not be that common. And it's important to kind of have a frame of reference for what has happened and how we ended up where we are now. So just a few notes. 2015 and 16 is kind of the era that I refer to as commit to compete. This was a push by the company that is their term, not ours, commit to compete. And what they did was came and said, either you take concessions in your contract or you won't get jets and the fleet will shrink and our route structure will shrink and the Horizon, its existence in itself will be compromised. That was the threat that led to us having this 2016 contract with an 8-year term that we now live in and in many cases suffer in. If everyone can see on the screen there, we're sharing a document. This was posted in all the crew rooms during that time for everyone that wasn't around to see it. So on the top, you can see this is what you'll get. I mean, it's proffering this offer, the way I'm reading it, of here is the route structure that we'll get and the aircraft numbers that we'll get in the event you take concessions in the contract. Significant growth, it says. Conversely, on the bottom, if we refuse to take concessions, we're going to shrink, lose aircraft, and so on. Now, this is kind of pertinent for today's conversation in that we were just told that we are now having 2 airplanes that should be delivered being paused. We're well below the numbers that we used to have. This was the deal, if you will. You know, concessions were made and we were supposed to have all these things, and that never happened. So that was 2015 and 16. 2017, the company made a significant effort to reduce costs, and by doing so, gutted the training department, which led to massive understaffing, and we canceled hundreds of flights in the summer of 2017. And arguably the closest this company's been to going out of business. This was purely management mismanaging and causing this huge meltdown. With this happening, we didn't have staffing, we were canceling flights, and 3 of our E-175s that were slated to come to Horizon went to SkyWest, where they are to this day. If you look, I think it's tails 194 and 195 and one other one. You'll see that they have Cat 3 antennas on the vertical stabilizer, and they're equipped with the forward galley. That is a configuration unique to Horizon. There is no other 175 operator with that. The company's contention that this was just strange coincidence that this occurred. 2021, just as a benchmark, we operated 60% of 76-seat aircraft for Air Group. By 2022, we were flying 44% of 76-seat aircraft for Air Group, SkyWest taking the majority. In 2022, it was announced that the Q400 was being retired, and the continued promises of growth were coming with that. You know, yes, we're getting rid of the Q400, but we're going to grow, and we have all these grand plans for the future, increasing route structure, buying more jets, etc. Promised long, thin routes have gone to SkyWest consistently in the last year to 2. Any new flying, like going back to Mexico and other quality long flying, has gone to them, not to us. While we've seen increases in inefficient flying, like Bellingham, Vancouver, things like that, where you're flying the rig all day long. Therefore, you're getting less pay, doing more work for longer days, and getting fewer days off in your bid. That's the result of that inefficient flying being dumped on us.
And our most recent reacquisition of our Victoria.
Yes. From there, in the winter of 2023, your union met with Jason Berry, the president of Horizon Air, and he at that time informed the union that if we could get our aircraft utilization to 10.2 block hours per day, that would put us in a great position for additional aircraft orders. Subsequent to that, in the summer, we got to 10.7 block hours per day, well exceeding the marker that he had put out as, you know, the thing he would need to take to the board to get us additional aircraft. No additional aircraft ever happened, nor are there plans that we are aware of for any more aircraft. Not to mention the ones that we were already due to receive are not coming for an unknown amount of time. For this summer, we were supposed to be flying 11.3 block hours per day, well exceeding the 10.2 that Jason Berry had marked. And then we already touched on, you know, the most recent events, which are the 2 delayed aircraft. As a kind of broad overview of what was and what now is, QX at the high water mark, if you will, had 64 airplanes and 1,100 pilots and change. Today we have 45 aircraft and approximately 650 pilots. Commit to compete, if you would go back to the poster that was up, it promised 62 aircraft and an expanding route structure. The company today has no plan for more than 50 aircraft and 0 expansion to our route structure. So I don't say this to just be doom and gloom. I say this just to educate people that have only been around maybe a year or 2, kind of to the very quick overview of the history of how we kind of ended up here. And you might hear some of the more senior people talking about commit to compete. Just wanted to give you an idea of what that is. And the fact that these promises of growth and additional aircraft are not new. This has been happening a long time, and the company's yet to deliver on any of this. So that's all I have on the QX history. We're certainly open to answering any questions on any of what I just talked about. And if there's senior people on this chat that have been around 20 or 30 years, they might have information that I don't have, so I haven't been around that long, that might be valuable for them to chime in with, and we're very open to that as well.
We understand that there might be a cost increase. We believe the Brazil has a 10% tariff increase. So obviously paying 10% more on each of the aircraft that were supposed to be delivered is a huge increase in cost. And as a business standpoint, we can't argue with that if that's really the case. The point of this education and what Joel said is that there's been a history of this, of where we continue to make the benchmarks that we're supposed to make exceed that, then the goalposts move. So when you hear the company state that we're growing, we were at 64 aircraft and I was 1,200 on the seniority list when I was hired here. And now we're down to 45 aircraft and 650 pilots. So we're not growing. We still have completely shrunk. And we're trying to get back to where we were. So we're trying to help that. We're trying to get to where we were. So when we pause aircraft deliveries, we are hugely skeptical of if we will ever get them. And then because of this history with our planes going up Sky West, that raises some flags as well. So I want to let you know of some history and how we're trying to actively solve this problem as well of getting more planes and pilots and better routes here at Horizon. So thanks, Joel.
I'll need to push for concessions.
Yeah, and to what Sean just said is that there was, what Joel touched on is there was a history of concessions that were given by former union members in order to facilitate this growth. Fool me once kind of adage applies here. So we're not falling in that. We're obviously in negotiations for a new contract now. We're not conceding anything. We're pushing to be industry standard or better. We got some things back in 2022 and we negotiated that, and we're continuing to do that for a new CBA because who knows how long we're going to have to live with that. So concessions don't really mean anything to us. Anyway, so a little bit of a history. Again, we think it's important for those that haven't been around for that long to know where we've been and where we're going. So we'll pass it over to Wayne. Again, you can ask some questions at the end. We'll have time. Wayne's going to cover some benefit stuff.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Benefits I'm going to talk about this month have to do with your long-term disability benefits, your leave of absence benefits, stuff like that. A lot of people don't, that I have talked to in the last couple of months, don't understand that there is a difference between leave of absence and your long-term disability and your short-term disability. So there is, when you find yourself in a position that you're unable to work, whether it's by workers' comp injury or something that's happened to you, you've lost your medical, or you've got a medical condition that you're just unable to be here. You need to file for a leave of absence with the company. After about 14 days, they'll put you on that, but you get to choose if you want to be on it or what type you want to be on. And then once you do that, actually before that happens, if you run out of sick leave, you should have your short-term disability bank will start being used. PDOs can start being used with that. And then once you start getting towards the 90-day mark, that's when you want to apply for your long-term disability. Long-term disability is a mandatory thing that we cover out of your paycheck. You guys, everybody has to pay for it. It's 100% participation. And once you get to that point, that will cover 60% of your salary up to a maximum of $6,000 a month. We are in process of trying to get that number increased, but that takes some time. There is a big difference between, some people think that once they get a leave of absence, that your long-term disability will just kick in. That is not the case. It's two different applications that you have to put in for. It takes 30 to 60 days for your long-term disability to get approved. And so the sooner, if you know that you're going to be out, you're going to have a surgery that takes 6 months to recover from. Apply for that long-term disability as soon as possible. At 90 days, you're eligible for that. And then there's also the VIP short-term and long-term disability that the Teamsters is offering. That is completely separate. It's optional. And from what I understand at this moment, I haven't completely researched everything about that yet, but if you have a pre-existing condition, they will make you wait 12 months in order to activate those benefits. So the sooner you can purchase something like that, if you so choose to do so, I will have more information for that about that program in the coming months. But keep in mind that leave of absence and that long-term disability are two different things. Also, there's state programs for paid leave that you can take advantage of. Oregon paid leave, Washington paid leave. Those are separate. You have to apply through the state. And it's the state where you are based, not the state where you live. I understand that's confusing. If you have any questions about it, feel free to give me a call. If you're based in Portland, you get Oregon paid leave. That is a pretty quick process to get through, and that can be used to help supplement you through the first 90 days of an illness or injury. It's really all I've got. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, email, text, call me. My phone numbers are all on the website.
On that topic, we do have a program to bridge the gap between running out of sick and short-term disability time and getting you to long-term disability payments, which is the vacation donation program. The way that it works is you can elect to sign up, and then we deduct an amount of vacation from your vacation bank, typically between 1 and 3 hours of vacation, as needed. So if we deduct, it's only to keep the account solvent. If we feel that the account has enough balance in it, we don't need to make a large deduction. So we try to deduct as little vacation as possible from your bank if you're a member. Once you're a member, in the event you went out on a medical disability, or we're not flying for some reason and we're going to go on to long-term disability, as soon as you've exhausted your sick and short-term disability banks, you would then have access to the funds in the VDP bank, which would total the amount you had at the beginning of going out sick in your sick and short term. So if you had 20 hours in your sick and 20 hours in your short term, you'd have 40 hours of payment out of the VDP funds to kind of bridge the gap to get you to LTD. So consider signing up for that. It's on APA 1224 website.
Yeah, and Michael in the chat posted how to sign up for that as well. So appreciate that.
And one other point I forgot to mention, I do apologize. Your long-term disability covers your loss of medical as well. So whether you're sick or not, if you have a condition that doesn't necessarily keep you from working, but the FAA or your AME says, yeah, we can't provide you a medical, your long-term disability covers that as well.
Thanks, man. Sean's going to cover some FAR 117 fatigue stuff.
Yeah, hey everybody, thanks for joining us here. I just wanted to discuss a little bit about fatigue, some things that have come up in our fatigue review panel meetings that we've had monthly. First thing I wanted to mention was that a fatigue call in and of itself protects you. Bottom line, pay is a different discussion, but you are protected. If you call fatigued, that's the end of that one. Pay is a different story. It's determined by the fatigue review panel, where we convene and discuss the merits of the fatigue call and whether it's considered to be within the pilot's control or not. And the vast majority of fatigue cases are typically pay guaranteed anyway. But another thing that's come up is sort of the difference between some FAR 117 language versus actual fatigue calls. And tucked deep in FAR 117.25 section E is that certificate holder must provide 8 hours of sleep opportunity for a pilot. It then goes on in section F to say that it's the pilot's responsibility to notify the certificate holder if they're not going to get 8 hours of sleep opportunity. It's incumbent on us legally to inform the company if we're not going to get that opportunity. We have seen a few fatigue calls that have popped up that involved the potential for that 8 hour sleep opportunity being the reason the fatigue call was made, when in fact that should have been a call to crew scheduling to say, it's time to reset my clock. I'm not going to get the legally required rest or sleep opportunity. So wanted to make sure that distinction was made. It helps in the review process. to prevent from what the company calls predicting fatigue, and really just brings it back to some very, very strict language in the law that says the company
I'm on a
needs-
union conference call.
No,
that it says legal documentation that says the company has to provide you with that. So wanted to run through that. Lastly, it is a requirement per the FOM to file fatigue reports within 3 days. So please make sure you're doing that. Prior to filing those reports, I strongly encourage you to send the narrative of your report to Fatigue Horizon at apa1224.org so that it can be reviewed. And we get back to you very quickly about any potential changes that maybe you should make so that you can submit an effective report.
Thanks, Sean. Where this comes into play too is this summer with the lack of 2 new aircraft and increased utilization rates. Min rest overnights are going to come back rearing their ugly head. And if you got a min rest 10 hours and you need 8 hours of legal sleep, then you do the math by the time you get to the hotel. We're not robots. We don't automatically fall asleep getting ready in the morning, getting back to the airport. So just keep that in mind. It's good advice. And we appreciate that, Sean.
And yeah, I mean, that it should be a no-brainer question for crew scheduling. If you call and you say, I will not get 8 hours of sleep opportunity, you have legally notified them that if they decide to keep your schedule the way it is, they're breaking the law.
and if you're receiving pushback, use your resources, meaning the union. You can contact Stewards Horizon, you can contact Exco Horizon, call a duty officer. There's a number of things you can do to work with that.
That includes in base as well.
Yeah.
Like if you have trips back to back that they're giving you min rest in base. Let's say you live 2 hours from the base, say where you fly out of. If you're not gonna get 8 hours of rest, call crew scheduling and ask for a hotel. And if they don't want to give you one, then you can push your start time back the next day.
Yep.
That 8 hours of rest opportunity applies on trip and between trips.
All right, we got one last thing where Michael's going to cover some pro stand stuff. So after that, we'll move right into questions. So if you've got something, go ahead and start throwing it in the chat or get ready to unmute and ask any questions that you guys might have. So Mike, take it away.
Yeah, we're just gonna plug pro stands again. Just as a reminder, just keeping it blunt, calling the company first is not your best option. Call professional standards first. We work with the duty officers, we work with the chief pilot's office to help keep these issues away from an investigation if you do have an interpersonal issue with a crew member. Even past interpersonal issues, we do everything. We handle a lot of stuff, you name it, we probably take care of it. We're fully staffed right now. Aaron Simpson is the chair. We got Kim Jackson, Casey Richardson, who's on this call, Henry Robertson, who's also here, Tim Swindle, Claire Webb, and myself. We're all trained, we're all standardized. You hear those names, some of them are check airmen, some of them are captains, some are FOs, some are CRM instructors. We got a nice balance of everything. So if you have any issues, call us first. We have seen recently that going to the company first and then deciding to go to pro stands can lead to violations of the agreement that we have signed with the company. So if you come to us first, we can all but guarantee that we'll try our best to take care of it. We have been relatively successful, so much so that we have had over 100 cases since we took this over or rewrote this a couple years ago. And out of over those 100, only 2 have gone back to the chief pilot's office under the new rules. So it's extremely successful, so much so the chief pilot's office still sends us cases. So come to us first. We can help you out.
Thanks, Michael. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into the chat. Chris posted, what are the industry standards at the moment? I hear that a lot, but I'd like to know what the reference actually is. So, Chris, I don't know if you're referring to negotiations. Yeah, that was my first thing. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot to cover, but industry standard, you could, yeah, thanks, Chris. You could certainly cover a lot of different things. I'm not going to go through them on this call, but if you look at the industry as a whole, what does United, Delta, PSA, I mean, you take the entire industry, regional and mainline character, carriers, and what do their, let's just take hotels for example. What do their hotels look like? What does that look like as far as distance away? What are their standards as a whole as an industry? And then compare that to where we are as an airline. Are we meeting? Are we less than? Are we more than what the industry looks like as a whole? And then we try to either match or be better than. Obviously, there's some negotiating capital that'll all get worked out in the end of where we decide to place a lot of our efforts and resources. Is it what does the industry look like as far as airport reserves? I believe that we're one of the only airlines that still do airport reserves. So the industry standard would be in that case that there are no airport reserves anymore in the industry. That's industry standard. So why is Horizon continue to be on, use airport reserves? So that's for an example, right? So that's us trying to negotiate when we get to scheduling as far as reserves. Look, the industry doesn't use airport reserves anymore. Why do we need them? So trying to bring us into the next, or at least the last couple of decades of what the industry has decided to change and do, as opposed to doing it the old ways, just because the old ways is what we used to do. So that's, hopefully that answered your question. We could do that literally through every single section. The sections that we have tentatively agreed to, we feel like we've gotten some good changes. There's some things where, it's negotiations, right? The company got something, we got something for it, but we have not signed any of those sections that we've agreed to without feeling like it's been a positive step forward of what a new contract should look like. Not taking any concessions, not going backwards in any way. That's why we have a lot of sections parked at the moment and not agreed to them. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Chris. If not, you can post another one down. Are there any issues expected with the Teamster strike at Swissport in Seattle with the picket lines? We were just talking about that today, Trevor. Thanks for the question. Swissport, they're next door, aren't they?
They're 2 doors down from us in this building.
Yeah, like literally you can knock on their door. Sean, you want to share the experience that you had in the elevator?
Yeah, so I was just passing a couple of them and I asked if they'd actually be striking or not. Of course, strike authorization vote isn't necessarily a strike. But these two gentlemen informed me that they were not from the area. They were actually from out of town and were flown in to do some work. Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't tend to believe in coincidences.
Maybe they're flying in scab labor. Who knows?
But it seems like there may be the potential that Swissport's ready to push back on any strike and bring employees from other areas in. At least that's how it seemed.
We don't believe at the moment that Swissport falls under the RLA. So a strike vote for them is a lot different, looks a lot different than what it would mean for us. We could call a strike vote right now.
Aye.
Aye. It really wouldn't mean as much as it will in the future when we get to mediation being released by the mediator to strike. So we don't at the moment believe that Swissport is under the RLA. So their authorization to strike might come faster.
Yeah, it means they can walk off at any moment.
And mean more. So if they're bringing in scabs, how many they bring in and the rate in which they can fuel aircrafts, airplanes would be different than what they can currently do, I guess. But as far as picket lines, our contract, we don't have any work stoppages. And so that wouldn't be, if you bring in scabs and they're working fueling the planes at the moment, our belief is that that would not be crossing a picket line because the scabs are fueling the planes. And because of the language in our contract where there is no work stoppage, that we would still be required to fulfill our obligation and our duty as flying. So we're still looking into that. We just got this, was this last night, yesterday that they called for this. So this is like breaking news for us as well. So like our plate wasn't already full. Now we're trying to figure out what they're doing as well. So luckily they are 2 doors down. I don't know if it's administration so much, but we'll try to get some information for you. And if there is anything that we can do to help our brothers and sisters at Swissport, we will. But be advised that we do also have language in our contract that prevents work stoppages.
Yeah, meaning if you believe that your plane is being fueled by scabs, you can't refuse the fuel. That would be a concerted work effort. Our contract does not currently allow for that.
You can make sure it appears to be done in a safe manner.
Now, if you feel that they're not fueling the aircraft safely, that's a completely different story. You handle that as if any person was fueling the aircraft unsafely. But in terms of holding their line for them, we are in our current language not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Another scenario I could envision is if they elect not to strike, they may still do a slowdown or other work action that they are able to do that could affect our operation. That's not to say it will happen, but that's another tack that they might take.
Don't get upset.
And at that point, you just handle it like it's a normal daily operation. If you wait for 2 hours for gas and it makes you tired, you're fatigued. If you're gonna time out and you're fatigued, you time out. If, you know, it's same thing like you normally experience when coming through Seattle Tacoma International Airport. So just handle it like day-to-day operations.
Hey, Chris, so yeah, thanks for asking that. And we'll continue to gather information. If there's anything that affects our pilot group, we'll make sure we push it to you guys. Chris posted in there, and I do want to touch on it. There wasn't a question necessarily, but the STD bank, we literally just had this conversation with the company this morning in a grievance meeting. I won't get into the deep down why we got into the discussion, but he is correct. If you are going to use your STD bank, it's 7. So you call out for a sick trip on Monday, and you don't return to work at all, your STD bank should kick in the following Monday, and not be using out of sick bank. Now the question was asked, what's the mechanism? Do you need to specifically call payroll or pay services or the chief pilot's office or anything like that? What is the mechanism that automatically starts deducting from your STD? There was no real answer. They're going to dive into it at the company said at the table, because we don't know how that works, right? Do you need to pick up the phone or send an email? But Chris is right. It's 7 days. So it's calendar days. It's not work days. So again, you call off a trip a 4-day on a Monday and you're off sick. If you're still sick, or, you know, your STD bank will start being deducted the following Monday. So if you are checking your balances, as you should, make sure that if you are switching and converting from sick to STD, that those banks are being deducted appropriately. But you got to do it, obviously, your own audit. If you have any questions with that, please reach out to us at the emails and phones, all that stuff. And we'll take a look at it. Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
Carl also posted something about, if you can go up on that, Henry, up on the chat.
Yeah, any additional
sorry, I was on
income during LTD?
Additional income during LTD. To the point of the STD, the easiest way to deal with that is a simple call either to your union rep, to myself, or to the base chief pilot. Keesa is the one that usually deals with leaves. If she knows that you want to start using that, just communicate. If you're going to be sick, just communicate. Then the LTD, any extra income, when I talked about using a paid leave Oregon or paid leave Washington, what happened to a couple of our members was that they were 5-6 months into their long-term disability issues. They got called by the Hartford. The Hartford said they have to apply for the paid leave Oregon or paid leave Washington. And then 3 months after that, they'd been collecting the 12 weeks of pay from those paid leave programs. And the Hartford said, oh, by the way, you've received $7,000 a month for the last 3 months. We need to collect that back from you because we gave it to you. That is legal. It's in their contract. It has been something that has been solid and concrete for years and years. The Standard has it. The Hartford has it. According to our legal counsel, it's probably not going to change. So we can fight it all we want. Best thing to do is if you're getting both payments at the same time, please save some of that money because they will eventually ask for it back and they are entitled to have it back. On that same note, communicating is important, as we all know, in the aviation industry. If we're getting an increased number of sick call outs, where the company is actually calling people out on their sick calls. So if you're using sick time for certain things, please communicate if you're actually sick so that we can, if you need a leave, the company will get you a leave. Okay. And that protects you from having to have a conversation with the chief pilot's office about how many sick days you have. So any question on that stuff at all, I'm always available. Text me, email me, whatever. And then again, Carl, with your question, can they require you to take scheduled vacation during a leave? You can opt to have your vacation used to pay you. They cannot require you to take it.
It's an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just to piggyback on what Wayne said, your sick time is an earned benefit that you have accrued. So it's our position that you can use it however you want to use it. With an asterisk that just says, use a little common sense when you use it. It will raise some flags, and there will be a meeting if you have a week of vacation and a 3-day reserve block and another week of vacation, and you call out sick for that 3-day reserve block in between the vacation. It's our contention that it's your earned benefit. If you want to use it, use it. You might be actually sick, but know that that's going to raise a flag. Yeah, so now you just took 3 weeks of, yeah, and you've had a non-rev flight somewhere in there. So
That's the other thing too. If you're using sick time as vacation Sierra, don't, and you want to, and you're going to choose to travel on your vacation Sierra, just as a reminder, anything that the company pays for you to use, such as KCM or Fly, there is a database of all the entries and scans that are used.
Fly Delta.
So if you want to use Vacation Sierra as your earned benefit to go on vacation, buy a ticket on Southwest and stand in the security line.
Delta.
Oh, I'm trying to be economical here. Or Delta.
He's
Yeah,
talking first.
just, yeah, Captain's book on Delta, FO, Southwest and Spirit are still in business. No, just be mindful. They do the first time when you call out, the first things they check are Fly and KCM scans. That's like, we know that for a fact.
There are weird scenarios where you are actually sick and you need to travel with your company benefit. That has happened. Just talk to the chief pilot's office if that's the case. I'm sick. I need to make it to such and such a hospital in another city. I live in this other city. That's fine. Just work it out with them so there's not the appearance of any sort of impropriety.
There's a program for that. If you, when you're booking on Fly, there's an emergency travel, which gives you positive space bumpable. It has to be approved by the chief pilot's office, but they will approve it. You just have to let them know.
I think it's our duty to let you know that in times of plenty, what the company would call plenty of staffing, because we're got all the people we need. There are a lot more meetings that the company has investigations for of shenanigans that normally the company would just blow off at regular times. We've had an increase of meetings of repping pilots for things that it's like, really, are we really doing this? Are we having a meeting for this? But apparently they have the time and we have overstaffing. That's not to scare you or anything. We're here. We'll, contractually fight for whatever is appropriate. But I just want to put that out there, is that we have seen an increase of meetings because of shenanigans that normally wouldn't get any attention. So just use common sense. That's all we're asking. We'll be there to rep and get you what you need, but just use some common sense.
Yeah, Carl, go ahead, buddy, if you want to share some of your experiences on LTD.
Yeah, I was recently had LTD, so I'm very familiar with it. They told me to apply for the Washington State. It's for 12 weeks, which actually covers the 90 days that we have. So I applied for it, was denied because I was getting regular money from the company. And because it cut off the beginning of my LTD, I wasn't charged any, but the timing could be critical. So if you're entering this, study very carefully when you start that, because the thing about the Washington State and Oregon, it's taxed. Whereas the LTD stuff we receive from the Hartford is not taxed. That makes a huge difference. One other point I wanted to make, with the short-term disability, I had a scheduled vacation when I took sick, and they charged me my scheduled vacation. I think there was a grievance filed. I haven't been able to see what the results was, but it said it was resolved. So those are my two issues. And if anybody has any questions about things not to do, or things to do to try and keep yourself out of the minefield, because it's worse than the surgeries that you might undergo, is just navigating that paperwork.
Thanks, Carl. And to your point, I'll add Wayne's working on it right now, but we're in the process of consolidating all of that information and creating a checklist for a pilot who is or might be considering going out on a long-term disability. Like, hey, I might have a surgery coming up. What do I need to do in this time period? And what do I need to request? And here's the link to this form, and so on and so forth. So it's a clear cut of Wayne brought it to our attention, like, you look on Team AAG and you got to sort and filter through all of this stuff. Now look at this CBA section here and go through all this. So we're really trying to consolidate that for pilots that are using LTD to try to limit the pain of the paperwork and not, as you, Carl, said, the surgery itself. So it's being worked on and we're actively going through it. Wayne's doing a good job.
One other point is that the stuff that's posted on the company is not necessarily timely. When I originally went on it, I looked at the stuff and it's from 2012, and I didn't notice it till after I applied, and it got rejected. So go to the union website for getting your paperwork, because that should be all up to date.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah,
there is a humongous amount of different leaves that you can take. It is a maze of information to navigate. If you need something in the interim to look at because you're visual, you can go to the Team AAG under the absence management section under your benefits. And under that, if you search, it'll have a checklist for employees needing leave. That checklist has a lot of, if you're an AAG Alaska pilot, mechanic, AFA represented, then don't do this, do this. And it can be very convoluted. So I am trying to work to get that honed down to just what does a Horizon pilot need to do? When do you need to do it? And all these different nuances. But one of the biggest things is communicating. Same thing with your sick calls. It's just communicating. A simple email or phone call to the base chiefs and include the stewards or the exco on that email will help alleviate a lot of those problems for you. Just communicate to them that you don't want to have your vacation 3 months from now, and then they have to cancel that and you won't have a problem. Stuff like that will come up. But like I said before, any questions you have, just call me. If I don't know the answer right off the top of my head, I will research it, dig into it, and get you an answer.
Mr. Liston, I see you raising your hand. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Carl's question brought up something for me that I've been wondering about. You go into the iPad, we've got our own section with past contracts, with hopefully new stuff. It's really hard to wade through, especially for a new person. I know I've asked this before. Forgive me, I don't remember the answer. Have we given up getting Sam and the company to work with us on keeping that stuff up to date? And if that's the case, would we be better off just asking them to remove it from the iPad so we don't get people looking at bad information?
Yeah, Chris, it's awesome question. We've tried to tackle it here. We don't have direct access to Comply 365. We can have a document, give it to the people necessary, they'll upload it. What we have found in this group, that between 2016 and now, if you look through all of the documents that we have, the massive amount of look here, now look here, and this has changed, and look what 2022, the LOA improvements brought. I'll share one quick story. When I first came on property here, I called crew scheduling to let them know that tomorrow, the next day, was my first reserve availability period, as it states in the contract. It's actually in there. You're supposed to call crew scheduling. There was a document 20 documents down where I didn't know where it was that says, oh, we don't do that anymore. So the crew scheduler goes, why the hell are you calling me? And I said, because it's in the contract. I'm supposed to. And he goes, we haven't been doing that for years. I'm like, okay, bye. So to your point, there's stuff out there that I know is getting missed by the pilot group because it's all over the place. Now, what we've tried to do is, instead of trying to, this group got on board well after there were so many documents to try to improve 365. I'm not trying to deflect, but what I'm saying is what we did do is there's two better places to go. We've set up the box and we try to advocate that in CQ presentations and new hires. We have box.com. There's a QR. I think Michael's going to share it on the screen right now. If you don't have it, we recommend doing it. There's also the APA1224.org website. There's a document search there that has all of the new recent documents that are in there. We found it better and easier to house them in those places that we have direct access to than always trying to go through the company and get Comply 365. So it's not a terrible idea of just pulling it out of 365 so it's not there anymore. But those are the two places that we would recommend going. Michael's sharing it on the screen right now. Take a screenshot of this, look at it, use the QR code. So if you don't already have this, I'd recommend it in addition to your 1224.org website. But all of the documents that are new, recent, current are all there to reference. Now, looking forward in the next 20 years when we get our next contract, I say that tongue in cheek, but whenever the new contract gets ratified, it'll all nicely be housed in one document until we get 8 years from there, and then it'll all be all over the place. But hopefully the people who are ever at this table will be able to know to update it as we go. But all of those side letters of agreement and insurance this and compensation that and reserves this, that there's all these different letters and vacation all over the place will all be in one contract again, one CBA document that'll be easy to find. So I know it's a mess. I apologize it's a mess. But I will at this moment say it was a mess before we even got here, just because of the amount of differences we have from 2016 to now with all the different documents. But we do have two places, as I said, that have all of these new documents, the current ones in there to research. But we will take that into consideration of just asking the company to pull it off the iPad. That helps everybody.
I'll add to that too, a focus of the negotiating committee. Of course, this is kind of the very end of the process, is creating a document that's more user-friendly, easier to read, pages marked with what section you're in on each page, things like that, that may seem small, but for people unfamiliar with reading contracts, hopefully that'll be helpful for finding things more quickly.
I sat down, Chris, one afternoon to try to go through one section of the contract and pull in all the different side letters of agreement. It was impossible. I wasted that afternoon. I got maybe 5 paragraphs in because I was literally trying to rewrite the current CBA with all of the new information we had. The amount of manpower that takes, it was just insane. So the goal is to get a lot better contract, and it's all in one document coming soon. So thanks, Chris.
There was a question from Justin.
Funny how easy for them to collect. Yeah, go ahead. You're better.
Sven, to your point, how easy it is for them to collect premiums and us collecting benefits like pulling teeth. It's a process that requires you to do some work. And yes, we would love to make it easier. What we're finding is that most of the insurance companies that carry long-term disability are about the same. The Standard, the MetLife, what was the other one? The Hartford. There's only a few that carry the type of insurance that we have. The best option for you is to address the issues with the doctor that's treating you, not your AME. A lot of times the AMEs will say, no, I'm not interested in filling out all of that paperwork. And then fill out what you can on the paperwork for the Hartford, and then take it to your doctor for him to add his stuff. That's what I did. I told him, look, you don't have to do anything. Just tell him what's wrong with me. And he said, well, that's a very long list, so it's going to take me forever. I don't want to do that. But I jest. Anyway, it is easier if you can fill out as much on there as you can, and then provide it to them for their signature, and then you walk it through to the Hartford for your long-term disability. For your leave of absence, the doctor has to fill it out, almost the same form, and then he's got to turn that in, and then the company can see it. It is, it's a lot. There's a lot to do, but it is worth it in the end. And we are currently searching for a provider. And I hear tell there's one out there. I believe it's a fairy tale until Paul Rudder tells me otherwise. that will actually help you through that process. So that is coming and we're working on it. We just have to get through that paperwork, and the consultants need to let us know where that's coming from. The reason that they can collect premiums from us so easily is simply because this is a 100% participation required. You don't get a choice for long-term disability. If one person doesn't want to do it, then nobody gets to do it at all. So when you have to use it, it's a great benefit. And yes, it does take some work, but we are trying to get that over to a different company that'll provide us a little better service.
This one. We've got a couple minutes left. If anybody has anything else?
There was something from Justin, if you scroll up a tiny bit. Okay. Something about Rainmaker.
Look at my screen.
Oh, Wyatt had.
Keep going, unless he deleted it.
Keep going.
There it is.
I'm not sure. So one thing that's been pointed out to me, with fatigue calls, Rainmaker has now been adding an XX placeholder over the flying that was missed, which they didn't used to do. I'm not sure why. In the policy, it does say that they're pay protected pending the review of the fatigue panel. So I don't think that they're stepping outside their bounds in that case, but please make sure we're doing our due diligence, checking our paychecks. When the pay guarantee goes through from the fatigue panel, Rainmaker should be updated appropriately. Again, that is not how they used to do it, and I'm not sure why they've changed their process, but there's nothing that says they can't do that. As far as removing pay and then going back in after an inquiry, does anyone have anything to add to that?
Yeah, anytime you see, just because we obviously get questions, feel free to reach out. But our first thing is, have you contacted Rainmaker yet? A little query tool in there, and then see what their response is. So again, just like filing agreements, your first informal resolution is to go to the chief pilot's office and see if they can resolve it. If they can't, you come to us. So if you come to us and say, hey, I've got a payroll issue, we can take a look at the screenshots, whatever you got. It's always going to say, hey, what did payroll say? So make sure you get some clarification from them first before, or in conjunction, parallel to contacting us as well. We're certainly happy to help, but always audit. Been doing this for a few years now, and anybody that's been here for any length of time knows the paychecks are not always accurate. There is a lot of manual processes that the company still does when it comes to payroll. So there's errors. So be aware of that.
Hey guys, this is Sam Berger. Can you hear me?
Got you, Sam. Go ahead.
Hey, a couple of comments, questions. With regards to the vacation donations thing, this may already be happening and I just don't know it yet. Is that something we could add to the CQ new hire orientations, and or to the point of explaining it, walking them through a step-by-step process? And signing them up for it during that CQ event or new hire orientation, so they're automatically in it?
Yeah, thanks for that. We actually just yesterday went through the CQ presentation to kind of revamp some stuff that's in there. That's a good new hire. It's always tricky because if you remember back when you were a new hire, it's always a fire hose of information. So I don't know how much any of you came out with any information from the union during that presentation, but hopefully something. So we try to limit what we give them during that new hire presentation just because of the amount of information they're gathering, but certainly something that we wouldn't be able to stick into the CQ. So that's a good recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing was on the Ontario hotel situation. Personally, I love the text messages that you guys sent out with, hey, Aji Whiz, this thing is happening. This is what we're doing about it. And here's some direction on going forward. I'm a total putz and I don't have any social media other than LinkedIn. And I checked it, I think about 12 years ago or whenever it first came out. So since I'm not connected into the network with everything, the text messages and the emails, keep me connected to everything that's going on, as well as my first officers that say, hey, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no. Where'd you hear about that? And like, oh, it was on Facebook. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know anything. So I don't know if that's an indictment on me, but regardless, with Ontario, when I got that message, and I'm assuming other pilots might be in the same situation, would it be possible to maybe have a superficial text message that says, this is the situation at the Ontario Hotel, check your email, and there's like a more detailed description, kind of like what you just gave on the words to say, and a little bit of the background that you just gave, that it's not safe, and the reason it's not safe is because of blah, blah, blah. So if you get stationed there, call crew scheduling and say these magic words, I don't feel safe here, and you're doing every pilot a benefit by helping advocate for this particular change, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. You'd like a high level view and a quick text message, and then for more information, click here. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Yes, we can certainly work on that. I don't know what information came across Facebook. We do not have a Facebook account that we use to disseminate information. Every so often, a pilot on like QX Pilots on Facebook will have a question or make a statement or something, and one of us will chime in, typically directing them to one of the official resources like the Exco email or the stewards or something like that. We do not send anything important through a Facebook, a Snapchat, any social media. Everything is done through text or email, or in these pilot chats, which are recorded and then emailed. So you shouldn't be missing anything so long as you have the correct phone number and a correct email address on file with your union.
To that point, I will add, there has been times on the QX Pilot Facebook where I will put something on there. I think Michael's done it a couple times where to say official from the IBT. That is in conjunction with an email that has gone out. So
It's usually
again,
just the email that we sent,
Copy,
but we
paste.
posted on there.
Yeah,
It's copy and pasted.
yeah, so we don't have an official union thing, but in running the communications and trying to get it out to the pilot group,
More than
the
there.
texts are only limiting, I can only do 300 characters, so they're pretty broad level anyway. And hopefully that's usually something that we've sent out to the email as well. But I really try to just shotgun approach and just try to get the information. Some people are only on Facebook, or I don't care, but we try to get as much information out as possible. So hopefully if you're paying attention somewhat, it'll catch your attention. That's where we're going. We'll try to in the text to direct more to the email where there's more information.
Yeah, we appreciate the critique. It's always a challenge to try to write it concisely with the information, which can be kind of a lot of information, in such a way that it's not so much information where people will just give up on reading it because it's just too much. So we try to get to the point, but we also want to provide enough background and information as to why we're doing what we're doing. So, but that's helpful. Thank you.
Carl,
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
what do you got on toe-op, Carl?
Sorry, took me a while to get that. I just had a quick question. What options are available other than, I know the union was discouraging time off without pay as it stands. What are the other options that are available?
Yeah, so time off without pay was before time off with pay was being offered, they were doing incentive lines. So anybody that remembers the incentive lines, that, well, it was probably about a year ago at this time. So we were overstaffed, and the company's option to get rid of people, and so they weren't worried about scheduling, was to, hey, you get your min guarantee, or I think it was 73 credits. It was 73 credits for an incentive line. So you're basically getting a reserve line, but you can't be scheduled. So I would often see on Facebook some of our pilots touring the world. It looked nice. I was very jealous. They were getting 73 credits to get paid and absolutely do nothing to be on vacation. So that was our contention, is that if you are in a position where you are overstaffed, you should be offering those incentive lines. We're not in a financial issue to be offering toe-op, time off without pay, or anything else. So that was kind of the, all right, well, if none of the pilots will take time off without pay, then maybe we need to go back to incentive lines where they'll take the incentive lines, and that was the option. But again, it all comes down to solidarity. We can't change. I mean, we do as much as we can possibly do at this hotel, at this table. But it takes the pilot group, it takes all of us together collectively in solidarity to change the big wheel. So if you've got a handful of guys that are taking toe-op, then they'll never get back to incentive lines. If you guys, we all stay at a shitty hotel and continue to put up with the shitty hotel, then guess what? Hotel will never change. But if the report's getting filed, if you're calling crew scheduling saying, hey, I don't want to put up with this crap, I don't feel safe, then guess what will get changed? We are 5 at this table, including our stewards that are awesome as well. But again, we are a small group. It takes us all in solidarity to fix this problem. And we're telling you there's a problem. We're trying to fix it. Can you help? And if nobody does anything, then we're just yelling at the wind.
Well, I was just thinking that 73 hours seems like pretty steep. And I know I was thinking like if they offered like 40, for a paid vacation with benefits.
You are not on the negotiating committee now, sir.
I know. I'm just saying it would be sweet. And plus, it might not go so senior that you can't touch it unless you've been here 30 years.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. But again,
if you leave the company with the option of you can have everyone here and paid because no one will take TWAP, or you can pay people a little bit less and not be here, that's still better than paying 75 or however many credits for being here. So I get what you're saying, but it's back to the solidarity argument of if no one is willing to take TWAP, it leaves the company between a rock and a hard place with you can pick. You can pay everybody the full amount or a little bit less and save a little bit of money. Your choice.
Mm. The only trouble is that they go to the furloughs and throw that in front of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look in any other contract, toe-op, incentive lines, voluntary furlough, and the early outs they offered during COVID are what are considered in the industry furlough mitigation techniques.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to furlough. That is bad optics.
Expensive.
It's expensive.
Very
It
expensive.
costs people, it costs the pilots money, it costs the company money. And then usually if you furlough and then you recall, now you're bringing back an employee who was burned. And from a company standpoint, you're probably going to have a scorned employee, which is not good for their optics.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to furlough, but toe-op is a furlough mitigation technique. So are incentive lines. There's no, as we've seen recently in the past year, there was no shortage of money around Alaska Air Group since we bought our second bankrupt airline. There's money to be had. We obviously are not advocating for anybody to lose their jobs ever.
And to be clear, when they have in the past offered incentive lines or toe-op, furloughs have never been a discussion that's on the table. We are not and have not been anywhere near a furlough recently.
Correct.
So that is not even a consideration of the company. It's simply they're trying to save some money in the short term. That's all they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's just
something.
It was just something I was thinking it'd be really nice to have those available, and the company hasn't offered them since we've gotten them once and during the buyouts when COVID money was available.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen it since because it's like it's either 73 or nothing. I was just thinking if we went down a little bit that could be our giveaway for something else, but I'm not on the negotiating committee. I don't want to be, but.
Oh, come on. It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's entirely up to in the contract as it's written. It's the company's discretion to offer incentive lines if they want to. It's entirely in control to do. They are not required to do so in some order of operation before toe-op.
That was my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
Yes, sir.
Nice try. I'll just hit this one real quick. Chris asked about fall scheduling. Crew planning is usually 2.5 months out in advance. So obviously, whatever the economy decides to do, it slows down after the summer months anyway. And then if we have decreased aircraft, they're only 2.5 months out. So we're still midsummer on scheduling right now. So it's a little too early, but past practice, I would say it's going to go down.
Yeah, and to understand that, it's airlines work off of everything is hypothetical all the time. This is how many captains we expect to have. This is how many first officers we expect to have. This is how many aircraft we're expected to have, flight attendants and CSAs and whatever else. So the only set numbers you get usually in aviation are the bad ones. Like the only set numbers we have right now in this equation are we are for sure not getting 2 airplanes. That's the only set number. So all the flying through the summer has been created with the anticipation of those 2 extra aircraft. So it is likely that flying will be reduced. We don't know how much, we don't know the numbers, we don't even know where, we don't know the bases, the lines themselves, but it is possible that flying will be reduced.
Am I missing anything? Chris, I appreciate your comments both down here are accurate. I love you, man. You're awesome. Thanks.
To
Hey
Wyatt,
guys, this is Sam Berger again.
Hey, Sam.
With regard to solidarity, one of the things that's always weighed on my mind, and this might be a whole nother can of worms for another talk, but the Pathways program, the abomination that it is, do you think the company, if we were able to get every pilot to withdraw from the Pathways program, and that's probably maybe an impossible thing, but theoretically, if we were able to get every pilot to withdraw from that program, do you think the company would come to the table and negotiate with the union a legitimate Pathways program, or is that just a lost cause?
No, I do, Sam. I honestly do. I've been active. I have strong opinions. I have put those opinions out, and I have been accused of browbeating those that want to join the Pathways program. So I don't. I'm not trying to be cautious of what I say here. I'm trying to actually put together a coherent statement. I believe with everything, if you stop feeding the beast is going to come to you and say, what can we do to make this work? That finally happened in 2022 when we were holding our feet in the sand and say, no, this isn't enough. And they finally, after so much attrition and solidarity and not ratifying the first tentative agreement, then they came back and said, all right, now let's talk. And then we got serious after 6 months of negotiating. So solidarity is not a joke. It's a real thing. And so it was evident in 2022. So when I say to the group, hey, stop applying for Pathways, I know you want to go there. You probably want to go to Hawaiian now and fly the bigger aircraft. That's fine for people. Whatever you're chasing your career. I'm not browbeating anybody. I think, though, again, I said this from the very beginning. You can't just look at you yourself and where you're headed. You have to look at your brothers and sisters and leave this place better than you left it. And if you're only here for you, then you're going to get exactly what you're going to get. So my position has always been, if no pilot signed up for it and there was a mass exodus of the pilot Pathways program to them, then they're going to come to us and say, all right, let's negotiate something that's better for the pilot group. Let's get serious about, all right, if we have to withhold hiring over here because we don't know how to manage that airline over there and we can't bring you over, then at least have a seniority number where you're, okay, that's fine. I'll fly here at Horizon as long as I can. If I'm just accruing longevity over there, that's fine. Do whatever you need to do. But there has to be some kind of middle ground between the two. But if you guys are fine, and I'm not saying you guys are on this call, but I'm saying collectively, if we're fine with whatever they throw at us, then we're going to get whatever they throw at us. And so I fully believe, and again, I'm not browbeating, but we're in these positions for a reason. And so we're trying to make this better for everybody. But if you're like, F you to everybody, and you're just going to do your own thing, then we all suffer the consequences. So that's my 2 cents. You brought it up. I've tried to lay low the last couple of months on it, but you can tell I get fired up because it's bullshit. People that have been here around a while have seen the goalpost move and move and move and move. And when other damn pilots from other airlines get better slots than you, who've been doing the flying, who've been bailing out Air Group and bailing out the shitty 7-3s over there, time and time again, you should have a seniority number. You should have first place in line over there and not getting behind some other damn airline pilot. Sorry, I get worked up.
Now Henry will tell you what he really does.
Let me tell you what I think.
And then in addition to that, it's going to take education by you on the lines with the new hires, because those Ascend Academy guys, they interview once and that counts as their Horizon interview and their Pathways interview, and they immediately go on the list. So there is like 3 lists now. There's the ones that were here where you're only have to be a captain for 6 months. Then there's the other list where you have to be a captain for 1,000 hours. And now these ascent people are immediately on the list. All they do is interview once. They didn't have to fly up to the hub and do the fancy carpet walk. So,
And there's a list just for me that just says no.
and there's a go list. Yeah, where Scott Day said, no, please.
I was going to say, there's the 5 people that are at this table are gaining nothing from this, because I will guarantee you the 5 of us will never have a job over there. Sorry, Sean, I didn't. You're new here. I don't know if we've had that conversation yet, but we gain nothing from this, right? But this is as a pilot group, what happens in your career, it matters to the 5 of us, whether we have jobs there in the future or not, specifically not Joel, but it matters to us. And so when we say, hey, this is what we see happening in the industry, and this is the unfairness and inequality that's happening within the air group, and we're saying something about it, then you get accused of browbeating those that want to go there. That's fine, but just say no for a second until we can get a better deal. That's it.
And it goes back to the industry standard thing. Like United, Delta, American, they have definitive flow programs, and we have this thing.
We thought it was a huge win. This is sad. We thought it was a huge win back in 2022, the contracts improvement, when we finally got it taken out where they don't pull your personnel or training record file from Horizon over to Mainline. That was a win for us. They were holding us to a higher standard than a SkyWest pilot, because they wouldn't have that information coming in. So we're like, well, if you don't want to come to the table on an actual pathways program and a set guardrails around it, then at least get that. And we thought that was a win. We still do, but that's all we could get at the time.
Yeah.
Is not having them have extra information and fodder for not hiring you over a SkyWest or any other pilot that comes down the street. Whew,
I completely agree with you. I'm with you 100%. That's something I bring up with new first officers that I fly with, and most of them have no clue the history behind it and how it's changed and how they can just terminate the program tomorrow and they have no recourse because it wasn't a negotiated program. And a lot of them are like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that. But if a guy wanted to remove his name from the list, if we had some kind of coordinated action plan to approach, Sam Berger calls 427 pilots, I don't know. I'm not really going to call 427 pilots, but if we had some means of doing that, is it just a call to the company that says, I'd like to be removed from the, you tell a chief pilot, do I have to submit a form? I'm not in the program, so I don't know.
I think emailing the base chief pilot, probably Kisa would be my guess, but I don't think there is a system for it because people aren't doing it. But I'm sure you can remove yourself.
And you can always, if you're on the list, not accept the class date, but
you can bypass.
Yeah, you can bypass
indefinite amounts of time.
Are you really going to do that though? If you're already on, you're getting called up. So I mean, it's not getting on the list. If they saw the list shrink from, let's just say 50 pilots down to nothing overnight, then they're like, holy shit, we got a staffing problem we're gonna have to fix. And Horizon's usually been the go-to to fix all of our problems. Let's go get a deal done.
And we're not telling you to not further your career. We have seen in multiple airlines where Horizon people go and are the gold standard in the training department. I mean, the story that I was told, a buddy of mine went to Frontier, where they fly the bus, where everything's automated, and their procedure for a while was, even if something's failing, leave the autopilot on. And then they hired a bunch of Q400 guys from Horizon who, whenever something would go wrong in the sim, they turn off the autopilot and become a pilot again. And that type of mentality changed their operation to actually encourage people to fly. So our pilots have consistently been the gold standard, and we expect you to be treated as such, especially when you go across the street. That's all we're going for. You are the professionals. You do things in this industry that other airlines can't do. I mean, we fly the 175 way better and way differently than everybody else. We still are the gold standard. We're the tip of the spear in this side of the industry, and we need to be treated as such. That's all we're advocating for.
Do you guys think it would be worthwhile coming up with like an action plan to accomplish that, so that pilots are understanding by everyone withdrawing tonight or, the next couple of days, the result would be a better plan or a better program where you get seniority from your date of hire at QX or I don't know what, but
can I
actively seeking
Sam, I'll be transparent with you and everybody else that's left on the call. In a nice way, this is like herding cats sometimes. Trying to get everybody to participate and even read the information that's sent out is difficult. Not until there's a ratified contract that has a huge pay increase in it can you get a 90% or 96% buy-in from anybody in this group. I love our pilots. We'll continue to work for every single one of them. But at max, there was 51 of our pilots on this call. Granted, a lot are flying, some are on days off, that's fine, but 51 on this call. And that's kind of typical of every pilot chat that we do and the company does. So just getting people to pay attention to the information that's out there, but then have an action plan. If you want to call 450 pilots, Sam, you're a steward, knock yourself out, tag, you're
Luckily, Sam, it's only 190.
You just created more work for yourself. I appreciate it. But that's in full transparency. I'll tell you that just trying to get the information of the things that we're working on at any one time, getting people to like read and understand what's going on is difficult, but then to have an action plan of like, hey, let me say again, if you are, let's just take a scenario. Let's say your mom or dad or some kind of cousin or wife's second cousin removed works over at Mainline and you want to go fly with them. I am with you. That's awesome. I want you to have that experience in your life and your career. I'm not saying, and this group is not saying otherwise, that you shouldn't have that experience. But until we get equality for our pilots here at Horizon, I would hope that everybody puts their wants and wishes behind what's good for the pilot group. That might be easy for me to say, I guess, because I'm not looking at going there, but we can appreciate the career opportunities and expectations that each of our pilots have. But with that said, we are trying to make Horizon better and the experience and equality here for our pilots better while we're here and not over there and not Frontier and not JetBlue. This is our responsibility for the guys and gals that work here. And that's what we're striving to do every day. So that's
absolutely. I as far as me calling every pilot, I mean, I can be stubborn sometimes. I might do that, but if I were to do that, or if I came up with some plan to pursue that, and or the stewards or whatever fashion, even recruiting other pilots, Armstrong and them, to join the cause and help call more pilots. But do we have a proposed pathways program I could present people with and say, hey, if you jumped out of this program, if you withdrew from it and allowed the union to negotiate a legitimate program, this is what something like that might look like. Wouldn't you prefer this over this thing that they could take away tomorrow?
So I want to make sure that we don't have language out there that I'm just going to call him a baby pilot, a pilot that doesn't fully understand the conversation that we're having right here and sees anything like that as actual language that's out there. There are ideas that we would love to take to the table. We've had some of those conversations, but they're not biting off, right? So all you can do is tell a pilot that says, look, hey, if you're interested, this is what the union's trying to get done. And doesn't that sound great? And maybe hold off on, going through the pathways program and having the interview. I just don't, my concern is getting language out there that's being passed around of this is what's being negotiated at the table, because at the moment, no one's interested. And when I say no one, I'm kind of saying both sides of the table, the company and the pilots, right? They're just like, well, I'm just going to take what I'm going to get. So we can sit down and we can have that conversation and we can write a few things out on the table, or, I can write on the table too. I don't care, but we can certainly sit down and write out those ideas. But get the word out. I mean, if that's really what the pilot group is, we're trying to help move the ball forward. But until, again, last couple of months, I haven't said boo about it. Maybe the last 6 to 8 months, because, I got accused of browbeating pilots. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to make this place better, damn it. So let's talk before we move forward with anything. I know We're way over time. This is great. Good questioning. I wanted to share this real quick. This is part of the new CQ presentation. This is nothing more than to say on any given day, we are handling most of this at any one time. Our negotiating committee was in session a couple of weeks ago, and we had probably 2 of the 3 columns happening at any one time with stuff that was going on. It was chaos.
I was on a phone call. You were doing an email and a phone call. He was doing a phone call. Paul was over here, our attorney, writing language. I'm trying to pay attention to the writing language. And then, like, there's 2 more emails that come in. I mean, it was utter madness.
It's one of those moments in the sim or on the line when both pilots, there's an emergency and you have to separate, and then you come back together and you're like, wow, that was a lot that just happened, and you kind of regroup, right?
It was like that for 4 days.
We came up for air and we started laughing. We're like, is this really happening? But I'm doing this only to show you what we're working on, what we work on, what we do on a normal basis. And one of those is obviously to get a better deal for our pilots in anything that we can get, and that includes the Pathways program. So you can see how animated I get. I got to go check my blood pressure now, but it's because I care. That's why we're here, and we wish that, damn it, everyone else would care too. But it's herding cats. That's the best way we can put it.
All right, I appreciate it. I feel the same way, so I'm with you 100%.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, volunteers, we're always looking for qualified volunteers. If you're interested, send the Exco an email, and we'll take a look at our staffing numbers. Same thing with you, Jonathan.
We appreciate everybody that's here. Again, just getting the information disseminated out to everybody is half the battle. What you choose to do with it in your career is your own thing. But we appreciate those that took the time to be here, and we will continue the fight that we do, and we hope that the pilots rally around the things that we're trying to accomplish here. That's all I got. So if there's nothing else, we appreciate you guys. If you guys got emails, texts, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, whatever you need to get a hold of us, we're here 24 hours a day. So somebody's going to get back to you fairly quickly on whatever you got going on. So if you come up with anything after this meeting, don't hesitate to shoot us or someone an email, and we'll take care of it. So until next time, appreciate you guys. Go fly the line, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.